Welcome to Unexpectedly Successful. Join us to hear the raw and genuine stories of women founders who have created their own pathways to possibilities.
Welcome back to another episode of Unexpectedly Successful, to hear the raw and genuine stories of these beautiful women founders who, despite it all, have been successful. And today we have this incredible, powerful woman, Retina Shaw, who has a really complex professional life and a lot of moving parts. She is a part of 3 businesses, one CBD, another one personal training, another one that's an expansion to wellness, the coaching to for aspiring entrepreneurs and for them to be unapologetically about what they need to do. And lastly, she's the administrator of a nonprofit, and we'll hear more details about all of this. But before that, please help me welcome Retina. Retina, how are you doing today? It is so good to be here with you.
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on. It is such a pleasure. I'm super excited about this. This is going to be really good.
All right, Retina, let's get going into getting to know you a little bit more. What does it mean to be Retina for you?
What does it mean to be Regina? I would say for me, it means being me in my authentic, raw self. I would say me being an unapologetic. I am a lover of food. I'm a lover of family. I'm a lover of fitness. And I'm a lover of just ultimately like just having fun. But also my biggest thing, I'm a lover of Jesus. So like if we not talking about Jesus, we not talking about anything.
Tell us a little bit more about what this fitness, food, family, fun, Jesus means tied to who you are, Retina. In a day-to-day, what does that mean?
So on a day-to-day, this is basically who I am as a person. I'm very big on wellness. Wellness is like my thing, all about being whole emotionally, physically, spiritually. Those are like my go-to things. So I feel like honestly, we kind of suffer far as the physical side. So like that's where fitness comes in, because I know that I've learned through fitness has taught me so much about just resilience and just the strength that you didn't know you had. So, and then the possibilities as when you just keep working, what will happen if you just be consistent and keep working. So you'll be surprised.
Wow. So, Retina, you mentioned that you used to be a personal trainer, and now you are speaking about you actually competing and all the things that you've learned from physical fitness. So tell us a little bit about how you got into all of this physical fitness leading to where you are right now.
So it all started back in like 1999. I'm kind of telling my age. Started back in 1999. It was my freshman year of high school. I remember we did like a fitness test, and I remember I was like 99 pounds, and I was just like, oh no. So I wind up starting going to the gym with my dad. My dad had a membership, so me and my dad would like go to the gym, and I'd be like, I'm working out. And so literally my sophomore year, I wind up getting into a strong body class and like learn how to like lift. And then over the time, I just realized that genetically, I'm skinny. I'm a skinny girl. Like my body frame, it's just, I'm a skinny girl. Don't matter what I eat, how bad I eat. Like I'm just naturally a skinny girl. And I just realized working out, I could change my body to be anything that it could, like with building muscle. So that's kind of how I got hooked on that part. And it was just something that I did like over the years. In college, I actually cheered in college. So it was something like always being physically fit, looking to par was always something that like I felt like I had to do because I was on the spotlight.
Wow. So, Regina, how does that tie into resilience, as you mentioned before, and strength? And you talked about how this is just one aspect to wholeness. So, how does that tie to Retina as a whole?
Where the fitness kind of came in was I've always kind of worked out, but I think where it really like came in to be like a like super priority for me was right after moving to Houston. A relationship that I had for like 10 years. We wind up kind of going our separate ways, and it was like a really tough like breakup for me. And I can say I suffered with a moment of like depression. Um, Being in Houston, I moved away, no family at the time, not any friends that I like really kind of knew. I didn't really have a core group. I had like a church home, but not really like a super core group of people. Just kind of being new to the city. And I just remember going through a depression. Like I would just like go to work, and it was to the point where I wasn't even eating, and that was just like a normal for me. And I would just like cry all the time. I would see myself crying, and then I just remember one day I was just like, I can't live like this. I need to eat. And so I just told myself, you know what? I'm going to get myself together, because like the biggest thing in my head at the time was that he didn't like, I felt like he didn't like me because of how I looked. So my mindset was like, I'm going to make him jealous. Like every time he sees me, I want him to be like, dang. And that's where the motivation came in. And it was just like after that, it was like no turning back.
How many of us have done things like that, right? As a comeback to something that it's hurting. But we're going a little bit further into that, Retina. How did you become a personal trainer and stuff and started making money out of that motivation that's initiated you?
It just kind of happened, actually. People see me and people were just like, I want to look like you. So I was just like, okay, like let's, it's not bad. I like being in the gym. Let's go for it. And so that was just kind of something that just kind of just slipped in my hand, just because I was in the gym like all the time. I was in the gym like sometimes 2 to 3 times per day. So it was just something that kind of just was like, I do this already. I might as well help other people. It was just like a very like a smooth transition, to say the least. And then it was just like ultimately after that, like it was something that I think taught me a lot, because I realized that people wanted to look and be, but they didn't want to really like do the work. So it was something that I was just like, okay.
So, Retina, was that your first entrepreneurial effort, or do you have anything else in your earlier life as a business owner, as making money out of your expertise?
I would say not necessarily like that was my first entrepreneurship like job like by myself. But growing up, like my parents actually were entrepreneurs, and growing up, my family had a cleaning business, and they had a cleaning business for like over 20 years. And I remember like we used to like have to get up and go clean commercials and residentials, and I was the one always doing like mileage and the paperwork and invoicing people. So like entrepreneurship is not something like new to me. I've kind of experienced that. My mom also had was an entrepreneur. She had her own business for a very long time. So, being a kid, you kind of like free labor.
Or free trading, Retina?
The stuff that I know now, how I operate a business, I've definitely learned a lot from my parents of just kind of getting a taste of that. But I would honestly say, like, I did like kind of see it, but it really wasn't something that I was just like, yeah, I want to do, only because like I thought I was going to go to law school, I was going to be a lawyer, and that's the way that I wanted to help people. I thought that was the way that I could help people. And then when I kind of realized and started experiencing life here in Houston, and it's just like a different world from growing up in California, I realized that that's not the only way that I can help somebody. So innately, too, then I had to go through the thing of, do I really want to go to school for another 3 years, not have a life, kind of struggle, be out here by myself? Like I just kind of had to go through the questioning of that. And then as time went on, especially after the breakup, I just like my desire for that wasn't wasn't there anymore, like the fire burning in me. So that's kind of why I just like at that point, let me do something that I love.
So, Retina, how all of those pieces that you're describing, the breakup, you moving from California to Houston, then becoming a hardcore workout person leading to personal training, how does that lead into the other pieces of entrepreneurship that you are currently doing, and then the things that you're expanding into, which the CBD factor? Tell us a little bit about that, and then the coaching.
So it all kind of started back in 2020. COVID kind of changed everybody's life. So COVID definitely changed mine. So at the time, I was in the gym industry at the time. I was a gym manager, so I wasn't really like training to the capacity of like full time, but I was like working for a gym. I was help managing a gym, and then also I was still kind of training. I would have like dedicated clients that I would do like here and there and kind of help out. But COVID basically kind of changed the game for how I transition.
So, what happened to you then?
As a manager, we worked for a little bit, and then finally they were like, okay, I don't think we're going to open. So through that time, I just was like, working in the gym industry is like a 24/7, 7 days a week, pressure, sales, like gotta make quota, all that kind of good stuff. And I just remember never really having time and just really being overlooked, working hard and always being overlooked. And it just kind of transpired. Actually, the beginning of 2020, I had been moved from a couple different gyms and like the gyms were very successful because of the work that I put in. And I remember we had performance and review, and my boss had slid me the paper, and we had definitely like increased. The club had did good, the best that it had done in a while. And I remember seeing for like raise, it said 0. And I remember that
Wow.
moment that day, I said, you know what? I told him when he slid it over, as I seen it, and I start crying, and I remember saying, "Don't worry, I won't be here long."
So, Retina, you said that you felt crying in that moment. What were your feelings in that moment that you then tailored to finding a solution, launching your own business? Like where, I mean, describe that moment, the good, the bad, and the ugly of you being a frustrated employee.
I just remember feeling unappreciated. Like that moment, it was just like all the work that I put in, all the things that you expect me to do, and I have over delivered. And like basically my performance doesn't equal my pay. So at that moment, I was just like, this is not the life for me. I just was like, if I continue this way, like I will never feel. It would just innately trans into how I felt about myself. So I was like, I need to break away because I know that I felt like that I was worth it. So I was like, I needed to get away so that like this is not something that bleeds on me as a person.
So, Retina, why business ownership was an option for you? Had you desired to be your own business owner in the past, or was it just because of the experience of your parents? How did that become a solution, an exit for you to be in a better place?
It was an opportunity that was presented to me by my partner at the time. So he actually was a pro basketball player and he played overseas. And when I met him like 9 years ago, he had his own business, and it was like he basically was like doing his thing. And I remember just seeing him do the work and be a boss. And I was just like, you know what? I'm a boss, but I'm a boss in capacity. And so I just think like he was a catalyst. So he was the one that honestly was like, hey, you know what? I seen what you've done. I seen everything that you put in. But he was just like, here's an opportunity. Do you want to? And he was like, well, if you do it, I got you.
So what happened after that, Regina?
That is where the cultivation of CBD factor happened. So um, it just kind of transpired because, of course, at the time I was like I was laid off. Well, I was on unemployment because of like COVID, whatever. And CBD kind of transpired because, well, the backstory is to that. Like I was in a car accident in 2018 and I was hospitalized in 2019 because I have a couple of, well, like 3 discs that are a little out of place and they're sitting on nerves right now. So I was hospitalized and I was paralyzed for 24 hours. And I remember being in the hospital and I've learned what some years back because I had knee surgery back in college that I wind up being allergic to morphine. So I can't take any pain medicine. Everything basically is part of the morphine family. Like it made me constipated. So I didn't want that. I didn't want that. And I was just like, at the time, I was just like, there was really nothing I could do. And I was having insomnia of like really, really bad. And so he was just kind of like, hey, you know, I know that you don't want to smoke. How about this? Like, let's do CBD since it's something that you definitely do use. How about this? Won't you start your own brand?
When you had that accident, then you utilized CBD as a way to cope with pain.
Yes, pain. So it was pain management and insomnia. My insomnia was so crazy because my pain level, my pain tolerance was just outrageous.
So that was in 2018. And so when this opportunity in 2020 came about, how did you think of CBD as the business that you wanted to start? Like how did you connect one to the other? Like one as a user when you were in a medical condition, and then now as a potential business for you.
I think the reason why it was an option only because CBD is not cheap. So I just figured that it's something that I'm going to be utilizing and I know that it works. And I know that far as my background, far as like health, like I'm just for anything that's natural, let's go the natural route. So I know that it would help other I would be able to help other people.
So, Retina, do you have any background in the cultivation of that business? You use cultivation as the word. Like, do you buy it and process it? Do you cultivate it and process it? Do you buy it, package and rebrand it? How do you do this? And and how did you become an expert at doing it?
How we set it up was I actually do work with some farmers. So we just kind of made a connection and kind of did some research and made some connections with some people that actually cultivate the product. So I don't do any of that. So I actually just I have a supplier and basically I just kind of pick the products that I wanted. And so based off of all the products that I want, so I basically then after that do the creation. So everything outside of the product, the product being made, I touch everything else outside of that.
So you get the product and then you do the final packaging and then the distribution of the product. So what you said in an earlier conversation, you and I, you said don't let the demographics of an industry intimidate you. So let's dig into that. Let's talk about the piece of the entrepreneurial journey for you, Retina.
Getting into, I'll just kind of tie it into like the CBD space. Obviously, cannabis is very taboo right now. We're kind of going through a place where it was like seen as like illegal and bad. Whereas like right now, we're just kind of going through the time in in 2023 where you have cannabis being legal in certain states and certain states like fighting for legalization of use of cannabis. And this space is just like a place like we can say it's male dominated. So, any kind of space like this where you see lots of males, you see lots of people that are not of color. So, and then you really don't see like women talking about it just because it's so taboo. People think of automatically when people think of the word cannabis, they think of, "Ooh, it's a drug. Oh, somebody's smoking something." And you're gonna go crazy, you're gonna get high, and you're gonna be acting weird, and it's just like, no, that's not the case. So in the space of it's a little bit more taboo for women, and of course it's a little bit harder for women to kind of break through in an industry that right now is not quite wide open, but it's like moving to the space where it's going to actually open up. So I can say, like, it's definitely kind of paving the way for people to say, like, "Hey," even I can say with myself, like, "I am young, I'm Black, I'm female, and I love God." And so, sometimes having the conversation, people ask me what I do, and I was like, "I have a CBD business," and they're like, "What?" And I was like, I gotta be like, "Oh, it's cannabis," and they'd be like, "Huh?" And I'd be like, "Oh, it's not like that though."
You're not a Christian, Retina. You're not a Christian.
Right, I was like, what I use, I was like, I don't smoke, and that's the thing that's crazy because most people be like, "Oh, you're into cannabis and you don't smoke," and it's like, "No, I've never smoked." Um, but I do take oils, so I do rub some cream every now and then, like, I do that, but it's just kinda weird, like, when you talk to certain people, but then too, I've been seeing lately, like, I guess being more in California, you have more people that are open to it and more people that know. You'd be surprised, like especially like your grandmothers and all them. They're like for it 100%. They're like, give me some CBD, let me rub some cream. I don't want to take a pill. Like that's where I'm at. So it just kind of depends on the space that you kind of go in and like the education behind it. So because I know I was cliche like that when he like offered to me, I was like, no, I don't do drugs. No, no. And it's like, no way. And then I just kinda researched it a little bit, and I was just like, "Oh, okay, the effects of it are different." So with THC, like, that's what people be like, it gives you an high, and it's like a what they call it a psychoreactive feeling versus, like, CBD does the same, but it doesn't get you high. So it's more of a mellowing feel, it's more of, like, the relaxation, and it gives you, like, the focus, and it does have both even with THC, it has so many healing properties. It's good for just about anything. So you name it, it could help. So that's where I was just kinda like, "You know what? Like, you have something that can kinda help heal all, but that's not something that they really want to, like, market to people because of the industry of, like, big pharmas."
You know, Retina, you mentioned pharma and the power, and I always say follow the money, right? Where is the stopper of opportunities? And also, it's interesting. I am Mexican, born and raised in Mexico, and there is such a taboo and like negative connotation with like Mexicans, those Mexicans by political parties, right? And then it's really interesting on how the trend of industry is now taking into just making it something accessible. And yeah, it's really interesting. It'll be very interesting to see the next steps in the industry for entrepreneurs who are now really well versed into the industry, and they've made it work with the challenges. Like I understand there are some challenges with banking and like all these other challenges that other type of businesses are not exposed to, right?
It is a business that you can definitely, like, branch into, but, like, I tell people when people are just like, "Why haven't you just, like, completely launched?" And it's just like, hello, it's not that easy. It is great to step foot in, but it's just not that easy. There's so much like regulation, even though there's not a like regulation on it. So like you said, like banking. Like we've had like what couple bank accounts closed already. And it's like you have people like Chase, like, yeah, we welcome it. And then it's like every so often it's like, what are you doing? Like, what is this? It's like asking a whole bunch of questions, and then eventually, just out of nowhere, you got 30 days, and like we're shutting your account on this day, and it's just like, what? We didn't even do anything. So the banking part
Yeah.
is an issue. A lot of that is because CBD is not FD FDA approved. So a lot of that has to do with, that's a whole nother situation with FDA. So, but because it's not FDA approved, like they kind of see it as kind of like it's worse than drug dealer money.
It's even worse.
Yeah, it's worse than that because it's like you could just throw money in the bank and they'll be like, they're not asking you questions, but it's like you get asked a bunch of questions. And it was just like, CBD is legal. It's legal in all 50 states. But because I believe everything, like you said, follow the money. It has to do with money because it's not traced back to where they can really make money off of that. So they can really kind of tax us in between and get their cut. They're just like, the banks are not moving it.
Wow, that's yeah.
You have to navigate like very, very strategically. And I would say, I think we have the biggest problem because I would say my business partner was the one who named the business. It wasn't me. I let him have it, but I was just like, CBD, you put CBD. So it's like automatically we can get caught. But most of the companies that actually have other names it's a little bit more easier for them because it's kind of like you can kind of disguise it a little bit. So, but the fact that we have CBD, we kind of had to run it under another like sister business. And so we have a holding and we kind of run CBD under that to kind of ease some of the issues that we were definitely having with banking. But yeah, that part and just like the regulation piece, it's not that easy, like creating, like when I was creating the labels and stuff.
So, Retina, what is the agency that regulates all of these? If it's not FDA, which one is it?
FDA doesn't like regulate it, but FDA does kind of have a say on how stuff has to look.
So FDA is still the one to have the say.
So it's not FDA regulated in the sense of like most of the like medicines they say FDA regulated versus like they're pushing it out. Like, yeah, it's good, which most of that stuff is not good. If it's almost like if it's FDA regulated, it's really not that good. So they're not going to really they don't want to regulate it because they already know what happens with that. If they start regulating that, then that kind of just takes some money out of their pocket for stuff that's regulated that's not good.
You as a businesswoman now going through this I mean you had your experience as a personal trainer, now in the CBD industry, and then now in the coaching business. By the way, the name, I love it, Set Apart. What is your why? What is it that you want to achieve through all of these pieces? And then now also tying it to your administration role in the nonprofit. What is your why to all of this?
My why is wellness. Like my why is just being whole emotionally, physically, spiritually, just being whole, like being whole all together. So my training business is actually called Set Apart too. The reason why I chose Set Apart is I just was like, there's a scripture in the Bible that talks about being set apart. And I was just like, how I want to go about it is everything is around God centered. So I know that, first of all, like I wouldn't be who I am without Christ, first of all. So that was a part of just like totally like I'm set apart and going into these industries, like you have to be set apart. So even though like most of these industries, like even with the fitness, it's like everybody's trying to do the quick fix and all that kind of stuff, the integrity, I'm always being about like I wanted to do it the right way. So that was like my thing of just getting people to understand that it's just not for the looks. It's not for the outwards. It's really for the inside. So if we transform the inside, the outside will follow.
I love that. Does that apply to all of the businesses and initiatives that you do, Regina?
Yes, wellness is like huge in all of the businesses. So wellness is really big in my CBD. Wellness is big far as like training, of course, and then wellness is the coaching. The coaching part, I think I have just branched off of that because that coaching has been an expansion because being a trainer for all these years and just being in the industry, you get so many people that are like, I want to, but then I could never understand. It's like, you want to, but like, why are you not? And I just really had to kind of break it down as to like, people really struggle with how to actually do it, like how to create those habits so that they can actually do and accomplish what they want to. So that's where I was just like, this thing is I can train people all day long and they'll fall off, but it will never be part of a lifestyle if they don't get the small thing of just creating, making it a habit. And so, like, how do we do that? So, step by step of just like identifying and creating those routines around that goal that they set, and then having that consistency, having that accountability. So I just like, that's the part that I was like, you know what, I think that I would be a better service to them than to kind of like train. And I think I would enjoy it more to kind of help people conquer the process, and just not just with fitness, but just with life and just entrepreneurship altogether.
So that is the piece of you helping them through coaching, right? Where they really can change habits and mindsets and really go back to what you said, changing the inward so that results show outside, but not necessarily being the end result.
Yes, correct.
Tell us about your most fearful moments in this entrepreneurial journey, and like those tough moments in which you have to make tough decisions. So tell us, I know there is a lot on that question for you.
I would just say just recently, a very had a situation with doing business with a significant other, and just kind of going through another, I would say, like breakup, separation, whatever you want to call it. Um, Having to kind of distinguish like what is the next step, because like not only intertwine as far as relationship wise, but we're entwined as business. And I can say like kind of going through this last like month, just kind of debating on how do I want to separate that, and saying, well, I really did want to separate. Like my goal was like I wanted to separate. I was just like, you know what, I don't think so, and just kind of really like honing in on the bigger premise and purpose behind it. Like, hey, I can be able to separate the two and still like flourish and still accomplish the goal that we set out to have. So I can say that was a huge decision, because it was just like, you know what, even if I did, that means that that would be the person that kind of funds everything. So that means my money bags would be gone. But I could just say like making a decision to be like, you know what, even though this person may have done some things or we may not disagree on some whatever may have you, this person is actually great at the business. Like our partnership in business is actually really great. So I'm going to hold on to that relationship and see where it goes.
So Regina, let me just make sure that I understand the situation. Your business partner was also your significant other, and now you are separating those two, and which one are you keeping, or any of them?
I am keeping the business.
The business. I love it.
I would say this is honestly the hardest decision that I had to make probably like ever in life. And a lot of this has to go with, I would say, just my life over the past 2 years, being a part of the Daniel's Den coaching program, of just like being equipping myself as a total person. And so like understanding and looking at life a little bit different. And as Darius Daniels talk about like standards not the ceiling, standards are the floor. And just like understanding like I have standards that I've already kind of set. And so even though life that I want may be different, like I have to choose my standards over like what I see myself and what I may desire. So it's just like really understanding like that I'm worth it and I deserve, so I can have it. And so it's up to me to negotiate the life that I want. And so like I can still have I can still have the business and that can still work. And, that comes with placing boundaries.
Wow, Retina. So we're like right in the moment of this decision making and you strategizing and defining new roles and setting boundaries and like I'm sorry, but I'm gonna go deep into it. How do you feel like? What is like the emotional piece to it?
It has been challenging just because of it's something that was like completely like unexpected. So I think more than anything, it was not something that was like, I can say like foreseen it. So I just think that shock nature, and it has kind of hit me into a place where I can say I've had my days where, I have not been so great, but then I've been giving myself grace to be like, you know what, you need to feel what you need to feel. And that's kind of where the book, The Mountain is Me, is coming in. It's like, feel what you need to feel. It's not going to go away tomorrow. Just keep working through it. And each day, just keep like putting a step forward. Because for a minute, I can say honestly, until I like read that chapter 4, I was just like, you know what, me being still and not doing anything will kind of make it go away. And it's just like, it's not going to go away until I start creating the life that I want. So it's now I can get up and create an alternate life that I want. So that's kind of how I've been doing it, taking it day by day, making sure like every day. I think the biggest thing that I have been doing, and this is kind of started like probably like last summer when we read the book,
Soundtracks?
yes, there we go. I was like, my mind went blank for a minute. But soundtracks and how literally like affirmations. I wasn't really big on like affirmations. And like, I really wasn't the type to just talk to myself crazy, but I was the type that really didn't say much. So I think the whole affirmations, like I am truly big on affirmations, and probably now for like over a year, I've been doing like gratitude moments. So a little bit before we jumped on, like after we jumped on, my gratitude alarm went off. So I'm really big on just kind of speaking to myself. And I think right now, the biggest thing that's really been getting me through is this doesn't happen to me, it's happening for me.
Wow, Retina. So tell us what you see in this vision you have and with all the moving parts that you have right now in the works and the expansion of your business. And we haven't talked about the online product selling of the CBD line, but what is next for you, Retina, and all of your business initiatives?
My next is really just coming out my shell and really sharing my story. And I really honestly believe that God has really set me in the place of where I'm at right now to not hide behind. And, I think we all kind of fall into the trap of, you know what, I haven't really went through anything like super catastrophic, but, like people really want to hear my story, but to know that my voice is there's something for me to say. And basically, there's something for me to say, and I have something for somebody to hear. And my thing is, I don't want to live a life where I didn't do what I was supposed to have done. And me not doing what I was supposed to have done holds back people from getting to where they need to get to.
Thank you for sharing that strategy that you're implementing as you separate business and relationships. And I commend you for being that brave, Retina, and just being strategic and embracing that transition. I I mean, yes. I mean, business ownership is not easy, but what you describe, I'm like, whoa.
It's not, especially like I love men, I love them, but they're a little bit different when it comes to certain things. So it like we've never had like a hard working relationship, but sometimes they're like, what are you doing? So, and just kind of combating to like this is what I know because I'm like behind the scenes and I'm doing all the work, and then you're telling me what you would like, and I'm like, that's not going to work. So it's just like going through that compromise of like, all right, we're going to do it your way and see what happens. And then it's like, oh man, yeah, I told you. So just kind of like working with men can be different. Just working with business partners altogether, because it's like everybody kind of
Yes.
has their stance on what they want to see happen, and then, the reality of how it really has to work.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love that you are so aware of your strengths and what you need in those partnerships, right? One question, Retina, based on that, what would you wish you knew before to do faster that you now know as a business owner, as a strategist, as a visionary, as a strong woman in this industry?
That things don't work as fast as you think they will be. Like, I just wish that somebody would have told me that it wasn't that easy. So, and it takes patience. It's just patience, and it's just like perseverance. And it's like to the point of just like keep working. But in the inside of just like business, I wish that I would have like been able to partner with other people actually in the industry that kind of could navigate it a little bit better. So we did kind of have some relationships with people that were doing the business, but there was some things of people not willing to share the information that they got. And we understand like through CBD, like some things are like sensitive, but it was just kind of like people always looked at it as like a competition. So it's like, I have it, I don't really want to share it. So we kind of had to go through the hiccups of just like figuring it out instead of like people just willingly like, hey, you're going to not have a bank account a few times like that, it's just like after that.
Yes.
I think that was the thing. I wish that there was more willing party of people to share and there was more partnerships in the industry versus like lots of competition. So it's really like an industry now where it's like the big organizations are really trying to take out the small ones, and it's all about monopoly like most like businesses are, most industries are.
Very important question to our podcast, Retina. Were you expected to be successful as a businesswoman?
Um, of course. Like I always kind of I'm the type of person where whatever I do, I tell people like I to myself, I am the greatest. So I tell people like I'm kind of like I have a mimic of like Michael Jordan, like Kobe mentality, like mama mentality. Like I will tell somebody that I'm good at something even though I'm not, and that is kind of like my MO. Like I'm going to make it happen. So success is not an option. It's just in due time. So just really understanding in due season, what does that due season look like, and the due in between in the process. But definitely it's around the corner.
I love the disclaimer. The due season. Where's the due season? That's the piece.
I just think that everything happens for a reason. Everything, there's a lesson in everything. So it's just like really embracing and just being okay with like my timing can't be based off of what other people think. So it's like, and just that
Mm-hmm.
whole thing with being an entrepreneur, like the comparison piece, not like looking at somebody, what else somebody else is doing because people are launching and people are doing this, and you're looking and you're just like, I'm still at like step 2. And it's like, it's not because I'm not working, it's because of so many things that have happened. And just like understanding that, like, I can't be looking at somebody else. I got to just focus and then keep pushing.
We never know what the other person's journey is, right? I mean, if we weren't pulling back the curtains on your journey right now, we would never know everything else that is happening. So that is just one example of everybody else's journey that we don't know. And so this comparison is just such a bad habit of most of us. And I love our mentor says the only comparison we need to do is with our potential selves. So I think it's just so powerful to keep remembering this and be patient.
Patience is key. And that's one thing I can say. Like God has really grown my fruit of like being patient, especially coming from just myself. I've always been this like independent woman. Like I take care of myself, like, and then making the decision to once this all transpired of like making the decision of him saying like, hey, you work on the business, don't go back to work, you work on the business, and I'll make sure like everything is good. So really like having to just be like, oh shoot, like this is not something I'm used to, but it's like really being patient in the process, and then just like being like, okay, like understanding and just saying like, all right, like I got this. So because you kind of go through those things where it's just kind of like, well, things happen and you be like, I don't know if this is kind of like a great idea. And at moments you're just like, maybe because things are getting held up, maybe I should go get a job or do something else because I don't know. But I
Yes.
but I think my biggest thing was really just like telling him, like even though at times he has gotten a little bit impatient and just with everything just kind of transpiring right now in the world and just like with the financial system and all that kind of stuff and just kind of having to deal with like merchant, and that's a whole nother story with like finding a merchant for CBD. He's just like, um, kind of like pausing, and I'm just like, pausing what? I've really put in too much work to kind of see it not happen. So it's just like I think holding on to it, even though it has not fully like launched, like our whole premise and like branding has really kind of set out for it to do. I truly believe that like I'm holding on to for it to get there.
For the women out there hesitating on whether or not to take their next step as their own business owner, as a side hustle, as something outside their employment, what would you tell them, Retina, in this journey that you've walked?
I would say go do it. Just do it. Do it scared. Do it in the unknown. Just do it. And I would say the biggest thing is finding something that you enjoy. Find something that you love. Find something that you're passionate about. Find something that even when things get rough, like you go back and you're just saying like, I can still move this because this is something that I love to do, and not doing something because it's cliche and everybody else is doing it. Because once we do that, then we kind of stop the process because it's not something we're really interested in. So I would say do your research, kind of scope out what like how you want to do it, and then really I would say like kind of network and reach out to people that already do it to be able just to ask the questions like what does this look like? What are some of the like challenges? Because I think that's the biggest thing is like getting into this, like people just want to know, oh, okay, you did that, okay, cool. And then I think people really don't ask about like challenges because there are a lot.
Exactly.
I would say collaborate, ask a lot of questions, find circles. You find the circles of people that are doing the same thing, or even get in the circles of just like females that are just out here just like doing it or trying to do it. Like I think the whole thing, it just takes the one step, just cultivating and getting around people that are like minded. So it's kind of hard to be around people that are not like minded. So this is interesting for me because part of like my friend group, I'm like the only person that's like an entrepreneur.
Mm.
To seek out those people, like because now there's so many people that are doing it, just like really kind of seek out that people. And I could say like now for myself, this is like honestly really good, like speaking to you, because I can honestly say I don't really have that many female entrepreneur friends that are like, now us all sharing our story and kind of like doing stuff. And, we know each other from a bigger like room, but to really like be vulnerable and just kind of like talk about this is where I'm at. Like, so I can say like that is important. I can say like I wish that I have that, but I have most of my guy friends or entrepreneurs. So it's kind of like I do have the network of people that kind of do stuff around the way of like doing that. But like far as like females actually doing it, like it's hard. And then most females kind of see it as being competition.
Retina, I'm gonna stop there because it's so important. The mission of this podcast is to bring role models and know-hows and inspiration. And from that perspective that you mentioned, where sometimes women do not support each other. And so we need to debunk that. We need to break that system, right? Because we need to support each other and we need to be there for when tough moments come, because they will come. It's not if, it's when. And I really appreciate you highlighting that truth that most of us have experienced in the past, and we're here to change that for the future.
Yes, it's super important. So I think that is where I am at, to where like I kind of see that, because even being a female, like it has been really hard. I've always worked in like male dominant industries, but to know that even in the space of just like having women that really kind of support what I do, it's not quite. And like that's been like one of my itches in the back.
Retina, how would you summarize your journey as an entrepreneur in one word?
What are we gonna say? I'm just gonna spit it with, it's been worth it.
It's been worth it. Oh, I love it. I love it, because sometimes we question like, are we doing the right thing or not? But oh my God, Retina, there's so many aspects to this conversation that I would love to go into. I love the things that you're doing. For my audience, how can they get in touch with you, either for the physical training part, for the coaching piece that you're expanding into, for CBD Factor? How can they get in touch with you, Retina?
So on I have IG, my personal IG. It is at MSRSHAW, and my name is Retina Shaw. You look me up and it might be a fitness picture. And then also for the business, it is at the THECBD FACTOR, the CBD Factor. And then also we do have for the nonprofit, it is at Play Through It, PALYTHRUIT, for those that want to donate to the nonprofit. And then the website, you can also, the website will be up soon, but it's going to be at the CBDFactorINTL.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for giving us options for that, Regina. I thank you for joining us in this conversation. I appreciate you sharing the raw and genuine stories that are in the works as we speak. And we wish you all success, and looking forward to having you in the future to do some updates on your story.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Well, thank you, Retina. For my audience, stay tuned for more of the raw and genuine stories of women entrepreneurs who, despite it all, have been able to be successful. Until next time, more to come.